The night was cold. The alien city was quiet, except for the soft hum of machines and the glow of tall lights that flickered above the streets. People moved quickly, not looking at each other, not stopping. It was the kind of night where everyone wanted to go home fast, to close the doors and hide from the world. But in the middle of that street stood a small figure, a little alien girl. She was thin, her clothes torn, her hands shaking from the chill. She held a small wooden box pressed tightly to her chest. Inside the box were toys, small, broken, but carefully kept. They were the only things she still had. She looked at the strangers passing by. Most ignored her. Some frowned at her and moved faster, as if her very presence was dangerous. Her eyes were tired, her face pale. But there was something in her gaze, something that refused to give up. Then she saw him, a human trader walking down the street, carrying a pack on his back. His clothes were dusty, his face rough from travel, but his eyes were alert. He looked like someone who had seen many worlds, many battles, and many lies. The girl stepped forward, her heart beating fast. This was her chance. She stood in front of him, blocking his path. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "Please take my toys, human. I just need medicine for my mother." The words were soft, but they hit him like a blade. He stopped walking. He stared at the girl, confused. "What did you say?" he asked. His voice was low, cautious. She opened the box and showed him the toys. A small wooden figure with one arm missing. A carved bird with no wings. A little cloth doll with faded colors. They were worthless in the eyes of the market. But she held them out with both hands, her arms shaking. "Please," she whispered, "take them. Give me medicine. My mother is sick. She will die." The human frowned. He had traveled across many worlds, and he had seen scams before. He knew children sometimes worked for gangs, tricking strangers into giving money. But something about her voice, something about the way she clutched those toys, made him pause. Around them, whispers began. Other aliens on the street turned to look. Some shook their heads, others muttered warnings. One old man hissed, "Don't get involved, human. Leave the girl. You don't want their trouble." But the human didn't move. He kept his eyes on the girl. She looked so small, so fragile, yet her eyes were filled with fire. He could see tears at the edges, but she refused to let them fall. "Where's your mother?" he asked carefully. The girl pointed down a dark alley toward the edge of the city. "Home," she said softly. "She cannot move. She cannot breathe well. The doctor said medicine can help, but it costs too much. No one wants my toys. No one cares." Her voice cracked at the last words. She quickly covered her mouth, afraid of sounding weak. She needed him to believe her. The human looked at the box again. The toys were clearly handmade, probably by her mother or father long ago. They were not things to sell. They were memories, pieces of love, pieces of family. And now this child was willing to throw them away, just to save her mother's life. Something tightened inside his chest. "Still," he asked, "why me? Why not someone else?" The girl lowered her head. "Because you are human," she whispered. "Humans are different. They sometimes help when no one else will." The words struck him harder than he expected. He had not heard praise for his kind in years. Humans were not welcome in many parts of the galaxy. They were seen as dangerous, greedy, untrustworthy. But here, in this desperate child's eyes, humans were still something else. The human shifted uncomfortably. He wanted to turn away, to tell her it wasn't his problem. He had done that many times before on many worlds, but he could not move. Her words pinned him where he stood. The crowd began to disperse, leaving only the two of them in the street. The night air grew colder. The girl's hands shook harder. Her eyes pleaded with him. "Please," she said again, barely able to speak now. "Take them. Save my mother." For a long moment, the human said nothing. His heart and his mind were at war. Was this a trap? Was she lying? Or was this the last cry of a child who had nothing left but broken toys and hope? The city lights flickered above them. The wind blew through the alley. Somewhere far away, a machine groaned like thunder. The night was heavy with silence and waiting. The human looked down at the girl and her trembling hands. He took a slow breath, his decision not yet spoken, his doubts not yet answered. And that was when he noticed shadows moving at the edge of the alley, as if someone was watching them both. The girl saw it too. Her eyes widened in fear. She clutched her box tighter and whispered urgently, "They are coming." The human froze where he stood. The little alien girl's last words hung in the air like a cold knife. "They are coming." He looked down the alley. The shadows moved again. Two figures in long dark coats slipped quietly between the walls, their eyes glowing faintly under the streetlight. They didn't look like ordinary citizens. Their steps were slow, careful, like hunters who already knew where their prey was hiding. The girl lowered her head and pressed the box of toys close to her chest. She whispered, almost too soft to hear, "Please don't leave me. If they see you, they will not let you go either." The human clenched his jaw. His instincts screamed at him to walk away. This was not his fight. He was a traitor, not a hero. He had no duty to a strange child or her sick mother. He had survived all these years by staying out of trouble. Get involved and you die. That was the rule in half the galaxy. But still, his eyes fell on the girl. She was trembling, but she refused to cry. Her courage reminded him of someone. From his past, he remembered his little sister back on Earth. She used to cling to his arm when their father left for war. Her eyes always begged him to promise that everything would be fine. But the truth was, he had failed her. He hadn't been there when she needed him most. That guilt still lived inside him, heavy as iron. The girl's whisper pulled him back. "Please, I only need medicine. Nothing else." He stared at the box again. The broken toys looked worthless, yet to her they were treasures. She was ready to give them away for her mother's life. That kind of desperation was not fake. No child could act with such pain in her voice, and yet doubt gnawed at him. Was this some clever trick? He had seen gangs use children as bait before. A traveler stops, feels pity, and then gets robbed in the dark. It had happened to men far stronger than him. The shadows in the alley shifted closer. One of the men in dark coats muttered to the other, pointing at the girl. Their voices carried a cold, metallic tone. Guards, maybe? Or bounty hunters. The human lowered his voice. "Who are they?" The girl shook her head quickly. "Don't ask. Just don't let them take me, please." Her words pressed against his heart, but his mind still fought back. He wanted to believe her, but what if she was part of them? What if she was leading him into a trap? He turned slightly, his hand brushing against the small weapon hidden under his coat. He could leave now. He could walk away and never look back. He would be safe. The girl would not, but then she lifted her face. Her eyes met his. For a moment, time stopped. Those eyes were not the eyes of a liar. They were filled with fear, but also with hope. They were the eyes of someone who still believed in the kindness of strangers. The human cursed under his breath. He hated this feeling, this pull in his chest, this old wound opening again. The shadows stepped closer. The men in dark coats were only a few feet away now. Their hands hovered near their weapons. One of them barked, "You there? Human, step aside." The human's pulse quickened. He looked at the girl. She clutched the box tighter, her whole body shaking. He turned to face the men. His voice was calm, but sharp. "What do you want with the child?" The taller one sneered. "She owes a debt. Her family owes more than they can pay. The girl is nothing. Move aside, traveler. This is not your concern." The human's doubts grew heavier. Was the girl truly innocent? Or was she just part of a family that had crossed the wrong people? If he helped her, he could be dragged into a fight with forces he could not escape. And yet, he could not forget her words. "Because you are human. Humans are different." Those words struck like fire inside him. He had spent years hiding from his own kind, hiding from his past. But this child still believed in what humans could be. Could he really betray that belief? The men stepped forward again. The air was thick with danger. The girl whispered, "Please, don't let them take me. If they take me, my mother dies." The human's heart pounded. His doubts battled with his guilt. His fear battled with his anger. Finally, he took a step closer to the girl, putting himself between her and the men. His voice was steady. "If she owes a debt, that's between you and her family. But she's just a child. You're not taking her tonight." The taller man's smile turned cruel. "Then you have chosen death, human." The human didn't flinch. He reached slowly into his coat, ready for the fight he knew was coming. His doubts had not vanished, but his choice was made. Behind him, the girl gasped softly. For the first time, she felt a spark of safety. For the first time, someone had stood beside her, but the shadows around them deepened, and the danger grew closer. The night was far from over. The street grew silent, as if the whole city was holding its breath. The two men in dark coats stood only steps away, their glowing eyes fixed on the human and the child. The girl clutched her box of toys so tightly her knuckles turned pale. The human felt the weight of her fear pressing against him, and for the first time in years, he knew he had stepped into something bigger than himself. The taller man tilted his head, his cold smile stretching across his face. "You think you can stop us, human? Do you even know who we serve?" His voice was like metal grinding on stone. It's cruel and sharp. The human's hand tightened near his weapon, but he didn't pull it out yet. He needed to think. He needed to know what kind of enemy stood before him. He asked slowly, "Who do you serve?" The shorter man gave a low laugh. "The ones who control this city, the ones who own the medicine, the ones who decide who lives and who dies. And this little thief," he pointed at the girl, "has stolen more time than her family deserves." The girl gasped, her eyes wide. She shook her head quickly. "No, I didn't steal anything. I only asked. I begged them to let me pay with what I had." Her voice cracked, but she forced herself to go on. "They laughed at me. They said my mother could die and no one would care." Her words cut deep. The human felt anger rise inside him like fire. He had seen cruelty across many planets, but this was beyond trade, beyond laws. This was a system built to crush the weak. The taller man's smile faded. "Enough talk. Step aside." The human's doubts returned, sharp and heavy. If he fought now, he would become an enemy of whoever these men served. And if they truly controlled the medicine, helping the girl could mean making enemies of the most powerful force in the city. One fight could turn into a war. His mind whispered, "Leave. Walk away. Save yourself." But then he looked down at the girl. Her eyes were wet now, her lip trembling, yet she still held her ground. She hadn't run. She hadn't begged again. She stood there, with only broken toys in her hands, facing men who could crush her without mercy. That kind of courage was rare. That kind of courage was real. The human stepped forward, blocking the men completely. His voice was calm, but firm. "You're not taking her tonight." "Not while I'm here." The men's glowing eyes narrowed. The taller one pulled something from his coat, a long silver rod that sparked with crackling light. A shock weapon. Deadly, silent, and forbidden in most civilized worlds. The human's hand slid to his own weapon, hidden under his coat. It was old, scratched, but it still worked. His heart pounded. He hadn't drawn it in months. But tonight, he might have to. Before the fight could break, a sound echoed down the alley. A cough. A weak, painful cough. The girl's head snapped toward the dark doorway at the end of the alley. "Mother," she whispered. The human turned his eyes toward the doorway. And there she was. A frail alien woman leaning against the wall, her skin pale, her breath shallow. Her body trembled, as if even standing was too much for her. The sight tore the human's chest open. This wasn't a trick. This wasn't a trap. The girl's mother was real, and she was dying before his eyes. The taller man sneered. "See? She is almost gone already. Why waste time on her? Move aside, human. We will collect what is owed." The girl cried out, "No. Leave her alone." She ran to her mother's side, holding her trembling hand. The woman gave her a faint smile, her eyes heavy with pain. The human's doubts shattered. There was no scam, no trap, only cruelty. Only a dying mother, a desperate child, and monsters who called themselves debt collectors. He drew his weapon. The sound of metal leaving leather filled the alley. The men froze for a moment, their glowing eyes narrowing in sudden caution. "You want the child," the human said, his voice cold. "You'll have to go through me." The shorter man hissed. "Then you will die here." The alley tensed, every breath sharp, every shadow alive. The human steadied his hand, ready for the first move. His past whispered in his mind memories of battles, of losses, of guilt. But tonight was different. Tonight he had a reason to fight. The girl held her mother close, whispering, "Please, don't leave me. Please, someone help." The human's heart burned with fury. He wasn't just helping now. He was choosing a side. He was standing against a city built on cruelty. But he also knew this was only the beginning. If he fought tonight, the enemy would not forget. They would not forgive. The taller man raised his weapon, lightning sparking across the silver rod. The alley glowed with blue fire. The human raised his gun. His finger hovered over the trigger, and then from the rooftops above, more shadows appeared. 6, maybe 7 figures, all in dark coats, all watching. The human's stomach dropped. The girl gasped, clutching her mother tighter. They brought more. The human's doubts vanished into grim certainty. This was no small fight. This was war. The human's breath came slow, heavy. His weapon was raised, his finger tense on the trigger. Across from him, the tall man's silver rod sparked with blue light, humming with deadly power. More shadows lined the rooftops, silent figures watching with glowing eyes. The air in the alley was thick, filled with danger, filled with silence that pressed down like stone. The little girl clung to her mother, her voice trembling as she whispered, "Please, don't leave me." The weak woman coughed again, each sound like broken glass. She was fading fast. The human's chest tightened. He had been in battles before. He had faced soldiers, thieves, and killers. But this choice was harder than all of them. If he fought now, he wouldn't just be protecting a child. He would be making enemies with the rulers of this city. That meant no trade, no safety, no escape. His life would change forever. And yet, if he walked away, the girl and her mother would die, His mind screamed, "Don't do it. You don't owe them anything. You'll lose everything." But another voice rose in his heart, louder, fiercer. "She is just a child. She still believes in you." "Don't break that," the taller man sneered, stepping closer. "You have 3 seconds to move, human, or you and the child die together." The human's jaw tightened. He thought of his sister again, her eyes, her voice, her last breath when he failed her long ago. He had carried that guilt across 1,000 worlds. Was he going to fail again tonight? His heart made the choice before his mind could stop it. He stepped forward, his body shielding the girl and her mother completely. His voice was steady, sharp as steel. "If you want them, you'll have to kill me first." The men on the rooftops shifted, their glowing eyes narrowing. The taller man snarled, "Fool, do you know how many of us there are? Do you think you can win?" The human's lips curved into a thin, grim smile. "Winning isn't the point." For a moment, silence stretched. Even the machines in the distance seemed to stop humming. The human's words echoed in the cold air. The girl's breath caught in her throat. She stared at him, eyes wide. She had begged so many, and all had turned away. Yet this stranger, this human she had never met before tonight, now stood like a wall between her and death. Her mother lifted her head weakly, her voice faint as dust. "Why? Why would you risk your life for us?" The human glanced back at her, and for the first time in years, his own voice shook with truth. "Because I couldn't save my own family. But tonight, maybe I can save yours." The girl's eyes filled with tears, not of fear, but of hope. The taller man growled, raising his weapon high. Blue sparks lit the alley like lightning. "Then die, human." Before he could strike, the human moved. His weapon fired, a flash of fire splitting the dark. The shot hit the ground at the man's feet, a warning, a promise. The others on the rooftops stirred, weapons glinting. The human shouted, his voice booming through the night. "Listen to me. This fight isn't worth it. You kill me, and the whole city will hear of it. You'll bring more trouble than you can carry. Walk away." His words rang with a strange power. He wasn't bluffing. He meant every word. The men hesitated. For the first time, doubt flickered in their glowing eyes. They had expected fear, begging, surrender, not defiance, not courage. The taller man spat on the ground, his face twisted with anger. "This isn't over, human. You've made enemies you cannot escape." With a sharp motion of his hand, he signaled the others. Slowly, like shadows melting back into the night, the men retreated. One by one, the glowing eyes vanished into the rooftops. The alley grew empty again, the silence breaking only by the sound of the sick woman's weak breathing. The human lowered his weapon, his arm trembling slightly. He hadn't fought, not yet. But the choice had been made. He had crossed a line he could never step back from. The girl rushed to him, her small hands clutching his coat. "You stayed. You didn't leave us." Her voice was broken, but filled with wonder. He looked down at her, his face hard, but his eyes softer now. "I don't walk away from family anymore." She smiled through her tears, hugging him tightly. Her toys still pressed against her chest. The human turned his gaze to the mother. She was pale, her body shaking with every breath. Time was slipping away fast. "Where can I find the medicine?" he asked firmly. The girl pointed toward the heart of the city, her voice filled with dread. "The market, but it's guarded. Only the rich are allowed." The human nodded. His path was clear now. Dangerous, maybe deadly, but clear. He holstered his weapon and looked at the girl. "Stay with your mother. I'll get the medicine." Her eyes widened in fear. "No, they will kill you if they see you." He crouched down, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "They'll have to catch me first." The girl swallowed hard, staring at him with trust and fear mixed together. "Please, come back." The human gave her a small, grim smile. "I will." As he rose and turned toward the glowing towers of the city, the night wind blew cold around him. He knew the fight was only beginning. The rulers of this place wouldn't forgive what he had done. They would hunt him, but he didn't care. His choice was made. He would save the mother, no matter the cost. The human walked through the city streets with heavy steps, the glow of tall towers burning above him. The child's desperate voice echoed in his mind. "Please, come back." He had given her his word, and his word was the only thing he still carried with honor. The marketplace lay in the center of the city. Everyone knew it was not just a place of trade, was a fortress. High walls of steel surrounded it, gates guarded by soldiers in black armor. Inside, the wealthy walked freely, buying medicine, food, and tools as if they were nothing. Outside, the poor stood begging, staring through iron bars like prisoners. The human paused in the shadows, studying the guards. Their weapons gleamed under the torchlight, sharp and merciless. He knew if they caught him sneaking in, they would not ask questions. They would strike him down without mercy. Still, he moved. He slipped into a narrow alley, keeping close to the walls. His boots made no sound on the stone path. He had learned long ago how to move unseen, how to vanish into darkness. The smell of spices and smoke drifted from the marketplace. He climbed a stack of crates and looked over the wall. Inside, the scene burned his chest with anger. Rich aliens laughed as they bought crates of food they would never finish, jewels they didn't need, medicine they would never use. Behind them, in cages at the edge, desperate families begged for scraps, offering all they had. No one listened. The human clenched his fists. "This city is built on cruelty," he thought. "No wonder the child has nothing left but toys." He spotted the medicine stalla, tall glass cabinet glowing with vials of pale blue liquid. Each vial could heal the weak woman gasping for breath in that dark alley. But the price? He could see it written above in shining letters, more than most people here could earn in a lifetime. The human touched the pocket where his credits were stored. Not nearly enough. He would need to fight or steal. But then his eyes narrowed. A group of guards patrolled near the stall. They moved with sharp steps, their eyes scanning the crowd. He recognized them. The same men in dark coats, the same hunters who had threatened the child earlier. They were here, protecting the medicine, making sure only the rich could buy it. The human stomach sank. He had made enemies earlier, and now they were here, ready to see him fall. Still, he did not back away. He climbed down and slipped into the crowd at the gate. 2 guards stopped him. "Business here is not for your kind, human," one growled. "Leave before we cut you down." The human lowered his head, pretending to be weak. "I only wish to sell," he said calmly. He pulled something from his pocket, a small device, worthless to him, but shiny enough to look valuable. The guards frowned, then laughed, thinking him desperate. "Fine, but step out of line." "And you'll die where you stand," one said, shoving him inside. The human entered the marketplace. His eyes darted from stall to stall, looking for paths, counting guards, measuring every shadow. His heart pounded, but his face remained calm. He walked slowly toward the medicine stall, pretending to be a trader. Around him, voices shouted prices, laughter rang, coins clattered. But he could not hear them. His mind focused only on one thing, the pale blue vials behind the glass. When he reached the stall, the guard beside it sneered. "You cannot afford this, human. Move along." The human gave a slow smile, as if in agreement, then leaned forward slightly. "Maybe I can't afford it, but I can take it." Before the guard could react, the human struck. His fist slammed into the alien's jaw, dropping him to the ground. Gasps rose from the crowd. Another guard lunged forward, but the human grabbed the fallen man's weapon and spun, striking hard. Sparks flew as the enemy hit the ground. Chaos erupted. The wealthy screamed, running in all directions. More guards rushed forward, their glowing eyes burning with rage. The human smashed the glass cabinet with the stolen weapon, shards raining down. He grabbed 2 vials, shoving them deep into his coat. "Stop him!" Voices shouted. The human darted into the crowd, pushing through panicked buyers. A blade slashed past his arm, missing by inches. A bolt of energy struck a wall beside him, exploding in smoke. He coughed, eyes burning, but kept running. He leaped over a stall, knocking over crates of fruit. Guards tripped behind him as the slippery mess scattered under their boots. He dashed into a side path, only to find 2 more men blocking his way. His heart pounded, but his body moved on instinct. He ducked under one swing, shoved the attacker into the other, and smashed their heads together. Both fell, dazed. Shouts echoed across the marketplace. "Human thief! Catch him!" He sprinted toward the outer wall, his lungs burning, his legs screaming. Ahead, a gap between 2 stalls opened like a narrow tunnel. He forced his way through, only to meet another guard on the other side. The man swung a shock rod, sparks flashing. The human raised his arm and caught the strike with his forearm, pain exploding through his bones. But he didn't stop. He slammed his fist into the man's stomach, then his jaw. The guard crumpled. The human climbed a stack of crates, vaulted over the wall, and dropped into the shadows outside. He landed hard, his knees aching, his chest heaving. His coat was torn, his arm burned, but inside his pocket, the vials clinked softly. The medicine was his. He leaned against the wall, breathless, his heart pounding. For now, he had escaped. But the whole city had seen him. The guards would not rest. The rulers would not forgive. Still, he allowed himself one thought, one victory. The mother will live. The child will smile. And tonight, humanity kept its promise. Asterisk the human returned to the dark alley, his breath still heavy from the escape. His coat was torn, his arm bruised, but inside his pocket, the medicine glowed faint blue. Every step he took felt heavier, but his heart was steady. He had kept his promise at the far end of the alley. The girl sat beside her mother, holding her hand tightly. Her head lifted the moment she heard footsteps. Fear flashed in her eyes. But then she saw the shadow of the human stepping out of the darkness. Her face lit up with a spark of hope. She jumped to her feet, clutching the box of toys against her chest, and ran toward him. "You came back. You came back," she cried, her voice breaking with joy. He knelt down, pulling the vial from his coat. "I told you I would," he said simply. His voice was calm, but inside he felt something he hadn't felt in years' pride. Not for survival, but for keeping his word. The girl took the vial in her trembling hands as if it were treasure beyond price. Her eyes shone with tears. She rushed to her mother, whispering, "We will save you, Mama. Hold on. Please, hold on." The mother's eyes opened slowly. Weak, clouded, but when she saw the vial, a tear slipped down her cheek. "How?" she whispered. The girl pointed at the human. "He brought it. He risked everything." The mother's lips trembled, forming a faint smile. She whispered something so soft he almost didn't hear it. "Thank you, stranger." For the first time in many years, the human lowered his head not in shame, but in respect. He had crossed the line, and though he knew the city would never forgive him, he did not regret it. But shadows always follow light. And the night was not finished with them. As the girl prepared to give her mother the medicine, footsteps echoed behind them. The human's hand went to his weapon instantly. Out of the alley came a man, older, his hair gray, his clothes worn but cleaner than most. The girl gasped. "Uncle Real!" she cried. The man smiled faintly and walked closer. "Child," he said gently, "I came as soon as I heard." Word spreads fast. About a human who defied the guards and stole from the market. His eyes flicked to the vial in the girl's hand. The human frowned. Something in the man's tone made his skin crawl. "You should not be here," he said quietly, but the girl ran forward and hugged the man tightly. He brought the medicine. "Mama will live." Her voice was bright, full of relief. The man hugged her back, but his eyes never left the human. There was no warmth in his stare, only calculation. "Medicine," he murmured. "Yes, that is a rare gift in these times." The mother coughed, trying to sit up. "Brother, don't." But her voice was too weak, fading again. The human's grip tightened on his weapon. His instincts screamed danger. He had seen this look before on many worlds, the look of someone who valued survival over blood. Someone who would sell family for safety or coin. The girl didn't see it. She was too happy, too hopeful. The man gently took the box of toys from her arms. "You still carry these?" he asked softly. "Poor child. These can't buy safety. But maybe they can buy time." The human's voice cut through the night like a blade. "You called the guards, didn't you?" The man didn't answer at first. His face stayed calm, but his eyes flickered. And then, from the far end of the alley, the sound of boots striking stone filled the air. Heavy, sharp, merciless. The girl froze. Her small hands clutched the vial to her chest. "No," she whispered. Big figures emerged from the shadows, guards in black armor, their glowing eyes burning. The same hunters as before. The human rose to his feet, weapon in hand, his eyes cold. He glared at the older man. "You betrayed them. Your own blood." The man's voice was low, almost ashamed, but still steady. "You don't understand. They own everything. If I give you up, maybe they will spare us. Maybe they will give us food. Maybe they will leave me alive." The girl's voice cracked in horror. "Uncle, how could you?" Tears filled her eyes as she stumbled backward, clutching the medicine like it was all she had left. Her small voice shook, but her words cut sharp. "You don't care if Mama dies. You only care about yourself." The older man lowered his gaze, unable to meet her eyes. The guards stepped closer, their weapons drawn. The leader sneered at the human. "We warned you. Now your life ends here." The human's pulse pounded in his ears. He could feel the girl's fear behind him, the mother's weak breath, the betrayal heavy in the air. He had risked everything to bring the medicine. And now, because of one man's cowardice, all of it might be lost. But he wasn't ready to give up. Not now. Not after coming this far. He raised his weapon, his voice low and steady. "You want her? If you want the medicine, you'll have to go through me again." The guards advanced, the alley filling with sparks and shadows. The girl's tears fell as she whispered one last plea. "Please, don't let them take us." And in that moment, the human knew this fight would decide everything. The alley was alive with danger. The guards in black armor closed in, their glowing eyes fixed on the human, the girl, and the dying mother. The older man, her uncle, stood to the side, shame heavy in his face, but he did not move to stop them. The betrayal still hung in the air like poison. The girl clutched the vial to her chest, her tears falling fast. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please don't let them take us." The human's weapon was steady in his hands. His heart pounded like a drum, but his voice was calm, cold. "You'll have to kill me first." The leader of the guards stepped forward, his shock rod sparking with deadly blue light. "So be it, human." The first strike came fast. The guard lunged, the rod cutting the air with a crack. The human twisted, the rod grazing his arm, sending fire up his nerves. Pain shot through him, but he gritted his teeth and fired. The blast struck the guard's chest, sending him crashing to the ground. The other guards roared and rushed forward. The alley filled with chaos, flashes of light, sparks, and the clash of metal on stone. The human fought like a man possessed, every strike fueled by something deeper than survival. He wasn't fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for the child's hope, for the mother's breath, for a promise he had made and could not break. 2 guards rushed him at once. He ducked, slammed one into the wall, and fired point blank at the other. Sparks rained down, smoke filled the air. And the girl screamed as the chaos grew louder. The human's chest burned. His arm bled, his lungs screamed for air, but he didn't stop. Not even when 3 more surrounded him. He spun, blocking one strike, firing another shot, then using the butt of his weapon to smash the 3rd across the face. Fall back. One guard shouted, "He's not human, he's a beast." Still, they pressed in, their numbers endless. The human staggered, his knees shaking. For a moment, he thought this would be the end. Then he heard her. The girl's voice, small but fierce. "Don't stop, please. You can't stop now." Her words struck him harder than any weapon. His strength returned like fire in his veins. He roared and pushed forward, driving the last guard to the ground. Smoke cleared. The alley fell silent, except for the sound of his heavy breathing. The guards, who could still move, scrambled away, dragging their wounded with them. Their leader glared at him with hate. "This isn't over, human. You've made enemies you cannot escape. The city will hunt you." Then they vanished into the shadows. The human lowered his weapon, his whole body trembling. His arm burned, his chest ached, but he was still standing. For now he had one. The girl rushed to him, her eyes wide with awe. "You did it. You saved us." He shook his head, his voice rough. "Not yet. Give her the medicine. Hurry." The girl knelt by her mother, uncorked the vial, and gently poured the glowing liquid into her lips. For a moment, nothing happened. The woman's breath was shallow, her eyes half closed. The girl's tears dripped onto her mother's hands. "Please, Mama," she whispered. "Don't leave me. Please." Then, slowly, the woman's chest rose deeper. Her cough softened. Her skin, pale and weak, began to show faint color. Her eyes opened wider, clear and alive. She looked at her daughter, then at the human. My child," she whispered, her voice stronger than before. "I'm here." The girl sobbed, throwing her arms around her mother. "I thought I lost you." The human turned his face away, blinking hard. It had been years since he had seen a moment like this, life pulled back from the edge. He had not saved his sister, but tonight he had saved someone's family. The mother looked at him with tears in her eyes. "You gave us more than medicine. You gave us a chance." The human didn't answer. He only nodded, his jaw tight. Behind them, the older man still stood frozen. His betrayal was clear, his shame heavy. He opened his mouth to speak, but the girl's eyes cut through him like knives. "You don't care about us. You never did," she said coldly. She turned her face away from him, holding her mother tighter. The man lowered his head, silent. He turned and walked into the night, leaving them behind. The human knew the danger wasn't over. The guards would return. The rulers of the city would never forgive. His face, his name, Mif, they knew it would spread like fire. He looked at the girl, who still clung to her mother. She lifted her head and whispered, "You didn't just take my toys, you gave me my mother back." The words struck deep inside him. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of his past lighten. but he also felt the shadow of the future. The city would not forget. The fight was not finished. He adjusted his torn coat, holstered his weapon, and looked at the glowing towers in the distance. "Rest tonight," he said softly. "Tomorrow we'll have to move. They'll come again." The girl nodded, but her eyes were still filled with hope. Hope born not from toys, not from medicine, but from a stranger who had chosen to stay. The human turned away, his figure fading into the night. The battle was over, but the war had only begun. And somewhere in the cold, endless city, powerful eyes watched, waiting for the chance to strike back.